She filed. He was 53. They had been married 26 years. He had kept his word. He had built the career, raised the children, paid the mortgage. He had done what was asked of him across 3 decades without requiring acknowledgement for the doing. None of that was a defense. Grey divorce, marriages ending after 20 or more years, has doubled since 1990 among Americans over 50. It initiates from the female party approximately 66% of the time, and the man on the other end of it discovers, at 53, things about the institution he entered at 27 that nobody told him were in the contract. This video is about what those things are, what grey divorce actually does to a man, and what the men who survive it do next. Section 1. What it takes. The cost nobody calculated. At 53, a man's financial position is not the same as it was at 32. By 53, if he worked consistently and lived reasonably, he has something. The retirement accounts are substantial. The home equity is real. The investment portfolio represents 2.5 decades of compounding. He was beginning, for the first time, to see the shape of the security he had been building toward. The finish line was visible. Grey divorce divides those assets approximately in half. Not the modest early accumulation assets of a couple who married 5 years ago. The accumulated product of 26 years of sustained economic effort. Half the retirement account, half the home equity, half the investments. And, in a marriage of this length with a significant income differential, alimony, ongoing financial transfer for a period the court determines, often measured in years, sometimes in decades. He has perhaps 12 to 15 working years remaining. Those years, the years he planned to use for the final push toward the security the previous 26 were building toward, become the years in which a portion of his income transfers to a household he no longer lives in. The retirement he was building still exists, but compound interest requires time he no longer has in the same quantity. The man at 32 who loses everything has time to rebuild. The man at 53 has been informed, mid-sentence, that the last chapter of the story he was writing has been revised without his input. But the financial loss, as brutal as it is not what breaks men. What breaks men is the identity loss that arrives simultaneously. The husband, the father in the house, the homeowner, the head of a household whose daily presence was the unremarkable constant that the family organized itself around. Those roles did not just fill his time, they were his answer to the question of who he was. For 26 years, the roles and the man were indistinguishable. Grey divorce removes them all at once. He moves into an apartment, not as a metaphor, as what literally happens next. The man who was the center of a household at 53 is cooking for one at 54, surrounded by furniture that doesn't fit the space, encountering, in the quiet of a Tuesday night, the question the roles had been answering on his behalf for a quarter century. Who are you when the scaffolding is gone? The research answers with numbers that deserve to be stated plainly. Men who experience grey divorce face all-cause mortality rates approximately 250% higher than their married counterparts of the same age. Not because they give up, because the social infrastructure, the domestic health maintenance, the daily ambient support of a long partnership, infrastructure so integrated into daily life that men rarely recognize it as infrastructure until it is gone, disappears overnight. He stops going to the doctor at the rate he should. He eats worse, sleeps worse, not from despair, from the absence of the structure that organized those things without requiring his conscious attention. The mos maiorum, the Roman concept this series examined in the Cincinnatus video, was an exchange. Give your service, receive your security. Return to your life when the task is complete. The man who kept his word across 26 years was operating on a version of that exchange. He gave. He expected to receive. Grey divorce is the moment he discovers the exchange was not as binding as the mors maiorum was, that the contract he believed was mutual was unilaterally terminable, and that the court, not the contract, determines what he receives for 26 years of keeping his word. Section 2. The Thesis. Not bitter, informed. Here is the thing about the men who survive grey divorce. The ones who come through it well, who build genuinely good lives on the other side, do not come through it angry, they come through it educated. This distinction is the spine of everything that follows, because the men who organize their post-divorce identity around what was done to them, who make the divorce the defining event of the years remaining, pay a second price that dwarfs the first. Bitterness is comprehensible. It is also expensive. It costs attention that would otherwise build something. It costs presence that the children, the new friendships, the chosen life ahead actually require. The man who is still relitigating his divorce at 62 has not escaped it. He has made it permanent. The Stoics had a name for the alternative, apatheia, the freedom from emotional disturbance, the internal standard that does not require external conditions to confirm it. The video on this channel about apatheia described it as the state the modern world keeps misdiagnosing as depression. The man who has reached apatheia after grey divorce does not look healed from the outside. He looks quiet. He looks like he stopped caring. He did not stop caring. He stopped being governed by what happened to him, which is a different thing entirely. Marcus Aurelius, who ran an empire from inside one of the most hostile social environments in history, wrote in the Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He was not writing about grey divorce. He was writing about the only instrument a man actually has when the external structure of his life has been reorganized without his consent. The man who survives grey divorce and refuses remarriage is not doing so out of fear or wound. He is doing so because he now has the one thing the marriage years, for all their value, could not provide: evidence-based decision-making about his own life. He has been inside the institution. He has experienced its exit conditions directly. He has paid the full cost of a contract whose terms he did not fully understand when he signed it. And he has concluded, not from bitterness, from information, that the risk profile of re-entering the institution is one he is not willing to accept again. That is not damage, that is wisdom, the kind that cannot be acquired any other way than the way he acquired it. Section 3. What the stripping reveals, the inventory. The roles that grey divorce removes were not only constraints, they were also scaffolding. And scaffolding, when it comes down, reveals the structure underneath, which is what grey divorce forces, at 53, that nothing else in a man's life had required: an honest inventory of what is actually there. The man who has been the husband, the provider, the father in the house for 26 years, has had those roles answering the identity question on his behalf for so long that the question itself has not been actively engaged with since before the marriage. He knew who he was because the roles told him. He was the man who did those things. He was good at them. He organized his days around them. He derived genuine meaning from them. Grey divorce removes the roles and leaves him with the question unanswered. The Invisible Decade video in this series described ages 35 to 45 as the crucible, the decade where every deferred question about identity arrives simultaneously and demands an answer. Grey divorce is that crucible arriving 15 years late, compressed into a single legal event, with additional financial and social pressure applied simultaneously. It is harder, and it is more clarifying, because the man who is forced to answer the identity question at 53 brings something that the man at 40 did not have. He brings 26 years of evidence about what he actually values, not what he was told to value, not what the marriage valued, but what he returned to when no one was watching, and what he gave up without resentment, and what he defended without being asked to. The inventory he takes in the apartment at 54 is more accurate than any inventory he could have taken at 30. Some of what he finds is grief. The future he had imagined is not the future that is coming. The grief is real and deserves to be taken seriously rather than bypassed. The men who bypass it carry it longer, but some of what he finds surprises him. Preferences he had not examined in 26 years, because the marriage organized around compromises rather than his actual preferences. Capabilities he did not know he had, because the division of labor had never required their development. The quiet discovery, arriving not dramatically, but in the ordinary moments of the first year alone, of what he actually wants from the years he has remaining. Not what the marriage wanted, not what the roles required, what he wants. That discovery, however painful the conditions that produced it, is not nothing. For many men who come through grey divorce, it turns out to be the most important thing the marriage years, for all their genuine value, never quite delivered. Section 4. What he builds, the chosen life. The man who takes his inventory honestly and refuses to organize his remaining years around bitterness, builds something that looks, from the outside, like a smaller life. It is not a smaller life, it is a chosen one. The friendships he maintains are the ones that were always genuinely his, rather than couple friendships organized around shared social obligation. The home he makes, smaller, yes, simpler, yes, is organized around his actual preferences, rather than the accumulated compromise of two people's preferences across a quarter century. The daily rhythm of his life is his to determine for the first time since he was 27. The research on men who navigate grey divorce successfully documents this with a consistency that deserves more attention than it receives. Men who come through grey divorce and build genuinely good lives afterward report with remarkable consistency a quality of deliberateness in the life they build that was absent from the marriage years. Not because the marriage was bad, but because deliberate choice requires the option of the alternative, and the marriage, for all its genuine value, did not provide that option in the same way. He connects. The data on post-grey divorce male connection is not pessimistic. Men form new partnerships, genuine, sustaining, deeply satisfying partnerships, at significant rates after grey divorce. They date, they find companionship. They develop the connections that the Marcus Aurelius video described as the male connection mechanism operating correctly, side by side, around shared endeavor, with the people who know them, rather than the people who know the role they performed. What they do not do, in the majority of cases, is remarry. Male remarriage rates following grey divorce decline sharply with age. Men over 60 who experience grey divorce are, by the data, overwhelmingly choosing not to re-enter the legal institution, not the relationship. The institution, the marriage certificate, the exit conditions they now understand from direct experience rather than from data or from watching other men. The younger men in this series audience who are calculating the marriage risk profile from the family court video and the bachelor tax fallacy are making an informed calculation from evidence they have not personally experienced. The man who survived grey divorce at 53 is making the same calculation from evidence he carries in his body, in his bank account, in the apartment he built his second life inside. Not bitter, informed. And those two words, not bitter, informed, are the Psycore thesis applied to the hardest version of the test this series has examined. The man who was stripped of everything the roles provided and who built something genuine on the other side did not find himself. He found himself out, which is different and harder, and in the end more his. Section 5. What he knows that the data doesn't capture. The statistics on grey divorce describe a population. They do not describe what it feels like at 3 in the morning in the first winter after. Not the financial hit, not the legal process. The moment he realizes the Christmas his children will come home to is not the Christmas they grew up in. That the table that held every holiday for 26 years is gone, and the gathering that replaces it will be, for years, an act of will rather than an act of gravity. Or the first time he gets sick, a winter flu, nothing serious, and there is no one in the apartment, not because he is unloved, because the domestic infrastructure that managed these things has been removed and he has not yet built the replacement. He lies in bed at 54 with a fever, and he understands, in a way no data point had prepared him for, what the marriage was doing that he was not accounting for when he was inside it, or the moment the adult children get engaged and he realizes that the wedding he will attend is one where both his children's parents will be present in the same room for the first time since the filing, and he will conduct himself with grace because that is who he is, and the grace will cost him something that nobody in the room will see him paying. These are the things the data does not capture, and they are the reason the comment sections of videos like this one fill with men who are not talking about percentages, who are talking about the Tuesday night, the Christmas table, the flu, the wedding. The man who went through grey divorce knows things that the man who is calculating before it does not know yet. Not better things, realer things. And the conversation between those two men, the one who went through it and the one who is calculating before it, is the most honest conversation this channel's comment section has ever been built to hold. Which is why this video ends with a question to both of them. Conclusion. Grey divorce is not a relationship failure. It is a legal event that arrives at the worst possible moment, takes the assets that took the longest to build, removes the roles that organized the identity, dissolves the social infrastructure that supported the health, and forces, without preparation, without warning, without the language the Invisible Decade video was supposed to provide, the identity question that a man at 53 had believed the marriage had already answered. The men who survive it come through not bitter but informed, not closed but deliberate, not smaller but more accurately themselves than they had been in 26 years of genuinely trying to be something slightly larger than themselves for the people who needed them to be. That is not a consolation prize. That is the Stoic outcome, the apatheia that this channel's previous video described as the thing the modern world keeps misdiagnosing. The man who went through the fire and came out the other side not destroyed but clarified. He already went home, in the Cincinnatus sense, not back to the marriage, forward to himself. So here is what I want from two groups of men in the comments below. If you went through grey divorce, what was the thing nobody told you was coming? Not the legal process, not the financial hit, the Tuesday night thing, the thing the data does not capture. And if you are watching this at 35 or 40 and calculating, what does knowing this happens to men who did everything right change about your calculation right now? Both answers belong here, because the man who went through it and the man who is calculating before it are having the same conversation, just from different sides of the same door.